In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to turn letters into characters using text that you can easily edit and change the font, font size, font color, and even the letter itself. So to demonstrate the kind of letter characters I'm talking about, I've got this short looping animation set up in Cartoon Animator 5, and I'll just do a quick playthrough of it so you can see what this is. You can see there these particular characters just jump up and the letters switch over from dog to cat as they do so. And this is really the reason why you would want to use this editable lettering as characters, because changing the actual letter on the character or using editable text anywhere in Cartoon Animator so much easier than having to import your text in, and I'll demonstrate that later. The first part of this demonstration, I'll just show you how I made these characters and some things to watch out for if you're going to do this yourself. So stop that and go to the stage, and I'll keep this character here so that you can sort of have a reference as I'm building up my new one. The actual character itself, where these hands and arms are from, come from a Reallusion pack called Cartoon Moves, actually from a bonus character that comes with that pack. You can see it here. So this is the character here, just like a sketchy line art kind of character. Put him on the stage. There you go. We're going to use that as our base. The next thing we're going to do is attach the lettering to him, because eventually, as you can see, we're going to be getting rid of the character's body. And once you remove that sprite, it becomes much harder to almost impossible to link the letter to the hip on the character. So to get to the text, we're going to get out of the pack here and switch over to items. Get to text, you go into the props button here, and you'll see over here there's a text icon. You just click on that and we'll get down to the text. And you'll see inside the text folder there is comic, realistic and subtitle text. Out of all of the text that comes with Cartoon Animator, there's only one text object that's actually useful for doing animated text of this kind, where you don't want any background to the text. Every other text box has got some type of background, whether it be a speech balloon, a gradient, or an actual image that you can't detach. We need to go into the subtitle text. It's this box here, subtitle 3 transparent, and what's unique about this is that it's the only text box out of the whole lot that does not have any kind of background to the text. You can see it's quite a long shaped text box. That's because it's intended for use as subtitles. Unfortunately, grabbing the handles on these doesn't work the same as, say, in a desktop publishing package or word processing package, where you have a text box and you move the handles to make room for more text and the text reflows. What actually happens, you'll see if I adjust this, all it does is distort the text. So that's something we've got to watch out for here. You only got a certain amount of text that you can fit into a text box, and there's ways to get more in there, but I'm not going to cover that here. There's two ways we can open up the text box for editing. We can either double click on it, or with the text box selected we can click on the text tool here, and that will open up the text editor box here as well. And the reason I'm telling you that is because we're going to eventually lock the text boxes so that you don't accidentally select them, because with this kind of length on each side, it's very easy for them to get in the way of the character when you want to select the character rather than the text box. But we'll get into that. First off, we're going to change the text to this font, and I'm going to create an S character so I can maybe add an S onto the end of my other characters. So we're going to type in S in the editing box down below, and then I'm going to click apply, and you'll see this S appear in the text box up here. And you can't see it properly because the center point of bone of that box is behind it. Change the font size. You simply go into the font size here, and you can either select or type in a number. I'm going to start at 48 just so that you can actually see my S. And to change the font, we just go in here and you have access to all of the fonts that you have installed on your system. And you can just select these and you'll see the font down here changes to whatever font you've selected, and that's one way to preview it, but as you can see that's really hard to see. If you actually want to see what that looks like, you have to click apply and you'll see it comes up in the box here and you can see it better. That's a really slow way of selecting text through Cartoon Animator. So what I do is I open up the system settings and I go into the personalization setting and select the font settings here, and you'll see you'll get this entire list of all the fonts on your system with samples of what those text or fonts look like. And this is kind of an easier way to sort of choose the fonts that you want to use in Cartoon Animator without constantly having to click apply every time you change a font in the text editor box. So I'll move that out of the way because I know that the actual font that I want for this is called Ultra. I'm just going to scroll down till we see Ultra and hit apply. So that's the text I'm going to be using. The next thing you want to do with your text is make it as large as you can in this box without the box cropping any of the text out. You see if I go exceptionally large with this to 128 points and go apply, you'll see that the letter is being completely cut off at the bottom there. All we can see is the top of that letter. So we want to get to a point size that completely fills the height of the box but without cutting off any of the letter. So we'll try 64. You see the bottom of the letter is being cut off. I usually go down in sort of 2 points until I get to the actual letter, but I think from memory this is something like 56 or 57 points, and you'll see that's not actually listed in this list here, so I can just type that in, go 56 and go apply, and I think maybe we have to go 55 from memory. Yeah, 55 is about what we need for that. And you can see I've got bold set here, italics, it's centered, and to change the color we just open up the color menu and hit what color we want. That's the color I'm using, and then we go apply, and that is pretty much our letter setup. So we can close down this editor for now. Next thing we want to do is position this letter on our character, and as you saw before, if I go by the corners it'll adjust this proportionately, it won't distort it. Or you can click this little link item here that links the proportions, and then you can just type in something or whatever if you wanted to. What I'm going to do is just type in 250. And you'll notice as these lettering gets bigger, they're starting to get a little bit soft around the edge. That's because the actual letters are converted into bitmaps, and you can only go so large before it's starting to become noticeable that it's pixelizing, and I think this would be about my limit, how large I would go on these letters. Anyway, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to put this behind the character because you can see here my arms and legs are in front and the face is in front. But I'm not going to use the Z-axis arrow down here because that'll move it too far. I just want it to move maybe 1 point behind, so that's just behind the character, using the Z coordinate up the top. And the final thing to do is to just link that to the actual character using the link tool up the top. You'll see down here, if I put it over the bones, when the bone turns green, that means if I click the mouse there, it will link to that bone. I'm going to link it to the torso bone rather than the hip bone down here, because when the character starts to move around, the letter's going to follow the linked bone, and I think using the torso, it means the arms will stay more linked, and they will if they're on the hip bone. So wait for the torso to be green, click on it, and now that letter is linked. So you'll see if I click character and move the character around, the letter's going to follow it, character, wherever I go. But if I click on the letter, I can still move that around, and that can become a little bit annoying when you're actually editing or animating these characters, because you accidentally click on the letter, move it around, and it throws everything out. So what I do to combat that is I'll just undo that. I go into the scene manager and you'll see we can lock off any of these props. You'll see this bottom one, that's my letter here. It's not locked off, so I'm going to lock it. You'll notice I can also change these names. I haven't with any of these, but I'm going to change this one's name to demo letter so that you know this is the one that we're editing. And then same with the character. I'm just going to quickly change my character here to demo character, so that if I refer back to this, you know exactly which one I'm editing. But you'll see now I've locked that letter off, so that anywhere I click on the stage, there's no way I can select that letter now. Select all the letters, which is both good and bad. It means now I can't open the text editor for that letter from the stage. The only way I can get back to the editor now by selecting it in the scene and then opening it using the little text icon here, and that'll get me back to being able to edit that letter. And also you'll notice because that's selected now, I can actually move that around on the stage if I want to, despite the fact that it's locked over here. So just be wary of that. You can still accidentally move it even though it's locked. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is build out this character. You notice the legs and arms on this character are positioned differently to what I have over here. So we're going to go select the character and go into the character composer and start fixing things up. And you'll see the actual letter has not been brought into the composer, and that's because the letter is not part of the character. That's something to keep in mind. You can't save the letter with the character when you save the character. If you want to save these characters, you have to save them in a project file that you can sort of use as a template and start with later on. You can't save them both together. But despite that, once you've made this character, you might want to save it anyway, because you can actually use it for any prop that you might want to give arms and legs and a face to. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this particular sprite. I don't need it. You can see in the layer manager here it's selected. Get rid of that sprite, you just press this little cross down the bottom and that'll get rid of it completely. And we're going to start adjusting the arms and legs. To do that, we just need to click the edit pose button up the top here, and we can now select bones and start moving them around. If I select this top bone, every child bone is going to move with it. You can see I'm going to move this further apart, and I also want to make the arms a little bit shorter. So if I start shortening from here, it will shorten and reduce the size of all the child bones. I do want to shorten the arm, but I don't want the hand to be short. So if I now select the hand and bring that up larger again, that'll return it to that size. And do the same on this side. We'll shorten the arm. Might have made that a bit too short, I think. Go about there. Make the hand a little bit here. Bring that up a bit. Make the hand a bit smaller. I'm going to move the legs apart and down. Move the arms over a bit more. And we'll check that, see what that looks like. There you go, that's not too bad. We're pretty close. All we do is putting the arms up a bit higher. Maybe the legs about in the right spot. Maybe just make them a little bit larger or a bit longer. So we'll just quickly do that. Remember, click the edit pose button, tiny bit larger, move them up a little bit, move the arms up a little bit. Might just move them up a little bit more. But the next thing we're going to work on is putting this face on the character. I'm going to go back into the composer, edit pose, and quickly move the arms up out there. That should be the pose done. So to do the character's face, what we're going to do is go back to content. Face that I used comes from the 360 face tool by Reallusion. So that's this pack here. Go into that and we'll just look at the heads. And it's this head here, the gym head. And this is an actual 360 head. So all we're going to do is make sure that the actual head bone is selected. Double click on that to add it as a head, like so. And then we're going to quickly go into the layers window. And what you want to do before you do anything else is just check that the head is in the correct layer order for where you want it to be. If you want the head to be behind where the hands are, this is the actual time to make that adjustment. This character that we've used is a 315-degree side-facing character, so this arm here should actually be in front of the head and this one should be behind. So in the layer menu, I'm just going to click and drag so we can see that red line appearing between the layers, and then release. That's put this arm and hand in front of the head. Now obviously we don't want all of these face pieces, so we're going to get rid of those simply from the layers menu, just expanding that and selecting what we don't want and hitting this little cross button down here. I want the front hair, I don't want the nose, get rid of the ears, get rid of the back hair, and we don't want the actual face or shape, face shape right either. We just want the actual eyes, eyebrows and the mouth. All we have to do now is get out of the composer and see if our face is in the correct position on the character. You can see over here I've made them much bigger and the mouth should be sort of down here between the arms. I need to bring these arms wider apart so there's more room for the mouth. But the arms themselves are at about the correct height, and just compared to that I think the feet probably need to be a bit smaller too. I'll go back into the composer, do edit pose so I can adjust my arms a bit, bring these out, get more room there, and I'm going to make the feet a little bit smaller. Now you want to select the whole face, not just the eyes, so I'm going to select it over here. That one allows us to move the whole head, and we want it down roughly where the arms are and slightly larger. See what that looks like. And that's roughly our letter done. I could probably tweak it a little bit, but there it is. So now I'll move this character over here, move the other one off the screen. If we want to animate this, we can apply any kind of motion to the character. So if we go into the animation tools, which is on here, hopefully you can see that. We just go, say we get a perform, here's Roger.
Trust me, you can animate the first time too.
And there we go, that's the character finished. Undo that. And I'm going to quickly move this over here. We'll add my new letter character into the mix. Just go back to the start of the animation. And I've already got motion saved for these characters. So I'm just going to add that motion by right clicking, going into the action menu. I'm going to add in my motion file this letter character motion here. Close that. There's a certain time that that motion's supposed to happen. Select this character. Look at their first motion. Now this character needs to start jumping from that point in time, and then it has to do a second jump, so go back to that character and it needs to do its second jump from that point. Switch back to here and it's just the exact same jump again. And I might just quickly do this shadow thing here. I think I can just duplicate that and move it over and we should be good to go. So hit the duplicate and click, drag, holding down the shift key so that it stays. Now if I hit play, hopefully that just worked a little bit out because the timing is slightly different. We'll stop that, go into the motion, we want to get that one and that one. Let's move them up. I think it would be about there, a couple more that way. So now we've got these 4 letters. This is the real benefit of using these letters. I just go back to the start and just frame camera up so that we've got all 4 in the scene. Now we can make this say anything we want and change it just by going to the first frame and selecting each letter. If I open up this, you'll see there's 2 letters in here and I could change it to, what do we change it to? Think of some words we can change it to. How about we change it to numbers like 4, make it say 4 and 5. So all we got to do is select whichever one we want to change and change it, hit apply. See it now changed to F, select the next one, and that's going to change to an F, but it's going to change to a different color F. You see now we've got this different color F, and we just have to put it back to whatever it's going to start on. Go apply. We just go to the next letter. See the next letters come up in here. I didn't have to close and open this. I just selected whichever letter I wanted to use. So that one's going to stay as an O, but the next letter is going to be an I. So I change that to an I and go apply, and then put it back the original letter by selecting it and going apply. The next one, the first letter is going to be a U. We just go apply. Second letter is going to be a V. Go apply. Go back to the first letter. Go apply. And our last letter is going to be an R. And you'll see here I haven't got a second letter on this one because I didn't actually do that. I'm going to show you how to do that now. The first thing we need to do is go to the timeline on where we want this second letter to occur. I'm going to close out of this. See all the other letters are changing at the very top of the jump. So we want this one to do it at the very top of the jump. Be about there. Now we open up that letter. And we just, in here, we click the add button. That gives us a new text in here, and we can edit it down here. And it's going to be E. We want to change its color to this color. Go OK, and then we go apply, and we're all done. See now, if we play the animation, I'll go back to the beginning, go play. And you'll notice I didn't change my last letter back, so we'll just have to do that. Changes to 5, and then they jump again. Again, changes at the top of the jump, about there. Open up that text box, change it back to the R, hit apply. In case you're wondering where these keyframes are kept for the letters, you'll see it's in the timeline. You've got this replace button here. And that works the same as the sprite button. You'll see when we open up, it's got text here, _S, which means sprite. So you technically, when you change these letters, you're making a sprite switch. So that's what's happening here. You can see in the timeline, that's the keyframe I added at the end there. That's the one where it changed to the E. That's back to the R. So that's where that sprite switching is happening. Now when I play it, do that up big, get rid of the timeline so you can see it. So there you go, and just to maybe further demonstrate this a bit more, I'm going to put actual words onto them. If we wanted to, we could just go the scene manager and just run through all the text again. But say this time we did words, so we go, we just do numbers. And we'll make them a bit smaller. 24. And it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next word it's going to show is 5. Get 24 point. Back on 1. Go apply. Go to the next letter. This is going to be 2. Next letter, we're going to change that to 6. 24 point. Change it back to 2. one's going to be 3. One's going to be 7. And the last one going to be 4. And that's going to be 8. Change it back. See, now we've got actual words. And if I just play this through now. There you go, that's just the whole reason why you would want to use editable text, is that you can make up, say, a template like this and pretty much just change the text and save it out as a new project in literally sort of minutes, even seconds. So I hope you found this video useful and that you learned something about animating text inside Cartoon Animator 5 using the text tool and editable text. If you find that you need to animate text a lot and you want to go more in depth into how to animate text in Cartoon Animator 5, I do have a paid tutorial called the Lazy Animator Guide to Animating Editable Text in Cartoon Animator, and you'll find that at my website, thelazyanimator.com. So if that's something you're interested in, head over to there and check that out for more information. It gives you a complete in-depth guide into what you need to know in terms of using the text tool, and it has more demo projects just like you saw here to give you ideas for how to go about animating text in Cartoon Animator. So that's it for this video. Until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye for now.